This is From Courtroom to Carline, the podcast where we discuss life as a lawyer and a parent.
I'm Rick.
And I'm Jenna.
Your host and partners both in the courtroom and in parenting.
Join us as we navigate the fascinating worlds of life as a parent and a lawyer. Get ready for a roller coaster ride where law meets love and where the gavel meets the car line. This is another episode from Courtroom to Carline, a legal parenting podcast. In today's episode, we are going to shift gears and talk more about health and wellness and our journey and what that's looked like for us. So I'm going to take it back for a little bit. So my first job was working at McDonald's. I was 14. I originally wanted to work at the drive-thru because that's something that my dad and I would do for a treat after school. But unfortunately, I ended up working at McDonald's at the mall. Still a great experience. I still worked hard, would eat the food on break, but didn't get to work the drive-thru. Rick, on the other hand, he used to work at Subway.
Yes. So all throughout my last years of high school and through college, I worked at Subway 5 years in total. It was something that sort of helped me survive during college because I could eat free subs, and I didn't get sick of it. And the reason I didn't get sick of it is because I knew that the vegetables were always fresh. Now I can tell you there are certain things that you don't want to get at Subway, but to play it safe, you can always count on fresh bread and fresh vegetables. You can't go wrong there. And so that's really how I survived through high school and college. And I can still eat it to this day because, again, I know that the vegetables are fresh.
So one of the points that really changed for me was when I had my first son and I was breastfeeding. And I started to realize, okay, well, what I eat and what I put in my body is going to go into his body. And I really started to take more of notice of what types of food I was eating. And then about 6 months in, when he turned about 6 months old, my supply started to tank. I think just returning back from work, not being able to feed on demand. And I came to the realization that we were going to have to supplement with formula. I started doing research into the formula, and I realized that all of the formula in the U.S. is not what I would want my child to be drinking. So I started doing research into European formula. I came across two brands, Hip and Olé. I ended up going with Hip, ordered it from Denmark, so I would have it shipped over. It was more expensive, but I at least felt that I was making a better decision in terms of what I was feeding my child. And then, oddly enough, for our honeymoon, our child was 17, 18 months old, and we ended up going to Denmark. So I ended up getting 6 or 7 cans and bringing them back with us. Quick funny story, I ended up getting stopped by security, I think in Iceland, wanting to know why I had so many cans of formula. Thank goodness I had our son with us because I was able to explain why. But for a good 30, 40 minutes, I ended up being separated from my mom, from Rick, from my son. Phones, obviously, were working a little bit differently, but that was definitely an experience.
Yes, and one of the things that we noticed when we went over to Europe was the quality of their food, fruits, vegetables. Our son could not get enough of the berries there, and when I tried them myself, they just melt in your mouth. And again, that's one of the things that sort of opened my eyes in terms of the standards they have over there and what goes into their food and what's not allowed to go into their food compared to here back in the United States. So it was one of those things that was a confirmation for me that, hey, we need to invest a little bit more into the food, buy organic, and really pay attention to what's on the ingredients.
And I think also talking about food and healthy food, it allows you to connect with people. So there were a few people at the public defender's office that I would, chit chat with. And one of them brought up a book called How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. And another person at the public defender's office had the book and allowed me to borrow it. Now, it is a big book, and we had our son at the time, but I slowly made my way through it. And it was really just an eye-opener on how food can affect how you feel. And I think one of the things, too, that really stuck out is we learned probably around the age of 1.5, 2 years old, that when our son would have too much sugar, and I'm not talking about candy bars, I'm just talking about foods that have sugar in it, which I feel like in this day and age, everything has added sugar. But if it was had more added sugar than normal, his mood would completely change. You'd have your typical tantrums, but these tantrums after he would eat sugary food was just completely different. And it's something that we took very seriously in terms of figuring out, okay, what is okay for our child to eat, and that was just really a big moment for us. And so when we go to the grocery store, most kids get the cookie. We would give him berries. Publix now also, you can get an orange or an apple or a banana. And I think that's a great idea, especially for parents that are trying to give their kids healthier options.
Yes. So one of the things that I would encourage parents, because a lot of parents don't even know the difference that they would see in their kids because they've grown up accustomed to eating sugary foods, from a very early age, starting with a lollipop, when you go to the doctor, or again, trick or treating, things that is ingrained in our American society where it's okay for kids to have sugar, candy, sweets, and it's really not good for their bodies. And if you cut that out and start to give them healthier options, you notice a significant change in their behavior. We did with our oldest son, to the point where he now is old enough to, I think, recognize what it does to his behavior, what it does to his mind, because we've shown him so many examples during his lifetime, like, hey, the reason you're feeling this way is because you ate this. And he understands it now. And he's done a really good job of sort of policing himself and saying no when, whether it's something that's being offered at school for some sort of birthday party, or, he knows now, hey, this isn't going to, be worth it, later on. And so we're really proud of him for that.
I think the hardest thing is, when you go to a birthday party and there's cake and cupcakes, but we've really just stayed firm and also are very open with our children about why we are making these decisions. So we don't deny them the cupcake. We'll say we're going to split the cupcake in half. That way we just lessen that sugary load. I mean, same thing, you bring up Halloween. Our kids now don't expect to eat any of the candy. Their main goal is how much can they collect rather than how much can they eat. So, and they've been very good with allowing us to, after a few weeks, throw it out. It kind of just sits there, but they really don't give us any pushback at this point, just because it's been part of our life and our lifestyle.
And it is hard, especially at first, trying to get your kids accustomed to eating healthy. They're not going to want to do it because, again, they've been used to eating all these processed foods and sugary foods. But if you stick with it, eventually they'll find a kind of a go-to meal that's healthy, that they can rely on, that they enjoy. I know in our household, it's either apple peanut butter and dark chocolate, or banana peanut butter and dark chocolate, that or Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt. Our kids love that, with some toppings, frozen blueberries, frozen mango. I can't talk enough about the frozen fruit that they like. And so if you just try to stick with it and get through those growing pains, it is worth it. They will eventually find something that they like and can rely on.
So you talk about chocolate. That is definitely my weakness. I eat it every day. My go-to breakfast is banana peanut butter and chocolate. But instead of semi-sweet chocolate, I now use dark chocolate, organic, fair trade. Shout out to Pasha Chocolate. They're definitely my go-to, our family's go-to. So that's something that, we definitely have tried to implement. And honestly, our kids don't know the difference. I mean, to them, that's chocolate. So they don't miss the milk chocolate or the semi-sweet chocolate. They're now used to that dark chocolate.
It is a big difference. So the chocolate we get, I think, is 85% cacao. And, like Jenna said, our kids have gotten used to it to the point where, they don't even taste the difference anymore. But that is something that we rely on. That's a staple in our household. And I'm glad that we found that. We've tried the 100%, and our kids won't eat it. That is too strong for them. It doesn't even taste like chocolate. I can't even tell you what it tastes like. So the 85% has been a good percentage for us.
I still think that, we have room for improvement for sure. I
Yes.
did not grow up eating lots of fruits and berries. Our kids definitely probably eat more fruits and berries than we do. We joke all the time of who's, the healthiest in our household. It's probably definitely our oldest by far because we just, loaded him up with berries. Um, One of the things, though, I'm a big fan of Jesse Itzler. I follow him on Instagram, and he has two books that I love: "Living with the Seal" and "Living with the Monks." But in a lot of the posts that he has in his books, he mentions fit for life and that he only eats fruit until noon. So I've seen it come up a few times in following him and reading his books. And I told my family, I said, okay, guys, we are only gonna have fruit before noon. Now we do good with eating banana, but it's always with peanut butter, or pancakes, but it's always with strawberries or some other type of fruit. And this is solely just fruit before noon. Now, in the book Fit for Life, it goes into why you should eat fruit by itself, and I wholeheartedly agree with what it's saying, but it's hard. So
Yes.
we tried it for 10 days. The kids gave, a little bit of pushback. We didn't stick with it, but we just definitely still try to be open, with our kids on the importance of just eating healthy and maintaining a healthy lifestyle.
And one of the tricks that parents can use if their kids are struggling to eat healthier is smoothies.
Yes.
You can put a lot of different things in smoothies, and you can even have them help you make it and throw the things in the blender and see it all, chop up, and have them try that. And we've found out that if our kids don't want to eat the dinner that we make them, we can almost replace or find use a smoothie to make sure that they get the nutrients that they need. And that has definitely come in handy. Jenna is a big proponent of making smoothies for our kids. And that also helps us kind of stay healthy and fight off disease because, as you know, with kids, they're going to bring home all sorts of things from school. So that's been a big plus.
Our go-to smoothie is definitely the heavy metal detox smoothie. I was researching, detoxing your body and your kids and just how to be healthy. And I came across the Medical Medium's heavy metal detox smoothie. It has wild blueberries, wild frozen blueberries, cilantro, Atlantic dulce, orange juice. I think that's just about it. We usually put some spirulina powder, usually some moringa powder. So it's definitely a good way to get your kids to have those good ingredients, those good, that good food, but hide it in a smoothie. And they love it. They love helping to make it. So that's been definitely a huge plus for us.
And if your kids like cereal, we use hemp hearts, we use chia seeds. You can sprinkle that, kind of sneak it into their cereal. Just little things that they might not even taste the difference, but they end up getting, the nutritional benefits from that.
I think the one thing, though, that I will say I still struggle with is the working out aspect of things, of the health, world. I feel like I do pretty well eating healthy. It's just finding that time, though, to actually implement working out. And I think that's still so important to maintain a healthy lifestyle. We definitely encourage our kids to get outside, to run, to do sports. But I definitely could use a little push to do that.
Yes, and we try to encourage each other, but a lot of times we find ourselves just so exhausted from the daily grind of, the business and, looking after the kids. There's a lot of times where we don't prioritize that aspect of our life, the exercise, because we're running around so much. And so a lot of times, if it's just as simple as, hey, let's all go for a family walk, or hey, let's just spend 15, 20 minutes stretching on the rug, or just something small that you can try to get into a routine with, even though it's small, it's something, and then you gradually build from there. And hopefully we'll get to the point where, on lunch times we can, go to the gym together or something, but just because, a walk is okay. Going for a family walk, it's something. It's getting you out of the house. It may not be, lifting weights, but it is something, and it's something that you can do with the whole family.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that I used to ask myself, if I wasn't a lawyer, what would I be doing? I think I'd want to work at the supplements section at Whole Foods or Rollin' Oats. Big proponent of, supplements. I think one of the things that we now take, and it's a go-to the second we feel something coming on, is olive leaf extract capsules. Those to us have been a lifesaver, and it's just something different than your typical Dayquil or NyQuil. You still feel like you're putting something natural, to fight the illness. So definitely just trying different things and keep researching, keep reading. Finding what works for you and your family is, definitely something that you should do and something that we've taken very seriously.
Mhm. And we've learned to rely more so on our immune system than, pharmaceuticals or over-the-counter drugs to battle this or to combat, this type of feeling. We've gotten to the point where we don't have any over-the-counter medications in our household. I can't tell you the last time I took anything like NyQuil or aspirin or something to that effect. We just are firmly committed to relying on our own immune systems. And I feel like over time, it gets stronger and stronger to the point where not only are our bodies doing a better job of fighting things off, but they're also doing a better job of recovering when we do feel bad. So, just again, relying on the natural remedies, I think has really helped us in the long run.
It's just something that we are passionate about and will still continue to, look into and research and just make sure that we're doing the best we can to raise our kids. But, we still make mistakes. We still eat the bad food sometimes, but it's just being aware and cognizant.
Yes, and I will say that, on the rare date nights that we get, if we go out to a restaurant, I will still get a filet mignon or a steak, or I will indulge because those are few and far between. It's something that, we don't get very often. And so I have no problem, taking advantage of a good chef and good food when it's offered. So don't feel like if you go to a restaurant, you can't order this or you can't have a great date night with your spouse or significant other. Feel free to indulge and take advantage of that time.
And our date nights usually always include dessert. So that's
Yes.
usually a must.
So this has been great. We're going to transition now to what happened to Florida Man.
All right, so on today's segment of What Happened to Florida Man, this is our headline. Owner of Delray Beach Reptile Shop arrested for slapping employees with bearded dragon. So this was in Broward back in January 2nd of 2015. The state filed a formal information on January 27th of 2015. And the information was a cruelty to animals. So that's what he was charged with. The probable cause affidavit says the defendant did actually and intentionally touch and strike the victims multiple times with the bearded dragon, hitting the victims with the animal and threw Gatorade on the victims. So that's what he did. And in this particular case, so I think the segments we've done thus far, everyone's taken a plea deal, so they've negotiated their case. This gentleman actually went to trial, so he maintained his not guilty plea, his innocence throughout the entire trial. Unfortunately, a jury did not agree with that, and they did find him guilty. However, after trial, the judge still did give him a withhold of adjudication, so no conviction, and he was placed on 12 months probation.
So when I first read the article, I thought the charges read more like a battery, touching someone against their will. But then when the state filed charges, they didn't charge him with battery. They charged cruelty to animals, which is, something that's always tough to beat in front of a jury because the prosecutor gets to go up there and argue this poor animal. How could you do this? As a juror, I think the one thing that I would want to know is, hey, was the lizard okay or was the bearded dragon okay? And if it was the owner of the shop's bearded dragon, as a defense attorney, I try to show the jury, bring the bearded dragon in myself and say, hey, look, this is my animal. He's fine, unless it was taken from him, in which case would be sort of sad. But I'm glad he didn't get a conviction or jail time. Again, if because it seems like he's got a real passion for animals if he owns a reptile shop. Again, I thought the case read more like you were going to charge him with battery against the person that was struck, but if they didn't do that. So very interesting case.
It definitely is. And I mean, it could have been one where whoever was hit didn't want to press charges, or maybe, they had some type of problem with the case, and that's why they went forward on the animal to cruelty case. But nonetheless, I mean, still very interesting. Definitely a Florida man story. And thank you again for tuning in to From Courtroom to Carline, a legal parenting podcast.